Hey everybody, welcome to part 4. Today we are going to be making the puzzle top box lid on our boxes. Before you begin cutting your pot, it's really helpful to have a template. When making your template, a few things that you want to think about. Really up and down, zigzag, lines with a lot of motion don't work very good for making a lid because they're very difficult to cut out and really difficult to clean up after you've cut them out. So avoid those. This wave design that I just made, even though it's simple, it won't work good because it has something called an undercut. An undercut is something that's going to prevent you from being able to lift up. It'll get caught, in other words, so that won't work. Designs that are simple, have straight lines or gently curving lines work very good, such as this heartbeat line here. That's a great design. It's simple and it's going to be easy to cut out and easy to clean up. Lines with very little up and down do not work as well. They'll make the lid so it just slides right off. Now that you have your design picked out, I'm going to go with the simple cloud design. You're going to go ahead and just cut a piece of paper the length of the top of your box. And this is going to be your template. That's going to help you do it evenly around each side of the pot. Draw a line about 1 inch from the top of your paper. This is very important, and it's hard to understand at first, but this 1 inch is going to leave room for the top slab. If you start at the very top of your paper, it's possible that you might cut through the top of the slab. It's hard to imagine at first, but it's the way it works. So draw a straight line, and then sketch out your design, and then carefully cut it out with a pair of scissors. Now that you have your template cut out, you're going to want to line it up with the top of your box and trace it onto your pot. And you can use a needle tool or a pencil to do this. But I want you to keep in mind one thing, and that's when you go from side to side, the lines where you left off need to match up with the lines that you're going to start on the next side. Otherwise, when you go to cut the box, the lid won't come off. And then you just go ahead and trace it around the whole entire box. And keeping in mind when you get to the end that you want all those lines to match up. So when you get to the end, make sure it matches up where you started off, and your box lid will come right off after you cut it, and you'll be very happy. Once you have your lid traced out, I want you to go ahead and keep that template in a really safe spot because we're going to be needing it later when we get to that decoration stage. You can see here in this student artwork how the design for the lid is reflected throughout in the decoration of the pot. It's repeated in a pattern. So this is why we want to keep those templates. Now it's time to cut out our lids, and my favorite way to do this is to use the cleanup tool. I like the knife, the really sharp knife end on the cleanup tool, and I'm going to do what we call scoring it. And scoring it just means that we're going to cut through just a little bit. I'm just kind of cutting through just the top surface of the clay, and I'm not cutting all the way through it. And this allows us to be really careful. If you were, for example, to put the knife all the way through, it would be hard to be accurate with your cutting. So scoring allows you to cut just a little bit at a time and make a very accurate cut. And so we're going to score it. I'll probably go around 3 times before I cut all the way through. But whatever you do not want to make a sawing action. If you go in and out like a saw, the knife blade will make a very distinct mark that will be very difficult to clean up later. So avoid sawing at all costs. Just lightly score it, take your time. This is going to take you a while, and just cut very carefully all the way around until you cut through. And when you do cut through, oftentimes a little bit of air will escape out of it. It's kind of exciting. So look for that. Keep in mind that by cutting through our pot to make our lid, we have reduced the rigidity of the structure slightly. And if our clay slabs are a little bit on the wet side, we can actually dent them. And we don't want that. We want to try to keep them as flat as possible. Now begins the cleanup process. And I want you to notice one thing, that the entire time I've had mine on this little foam cushion. And this is because I want to keep from damaging my pot. And I've also been really careful to keep my table really clean. And just like before in our last video, I really challenge you to see how clean you can keep your project. If you work really hard on that, you're going to find that you're going to be really satisfied with the outcome, because it's going to be nice and clean and really good looking. So to begin this process, I like to start with my fettling knife, and I like to lay it on the foam cushion and then hold that fettling knife flat against the walls, and this will remove any little burrs that we have from cutting with our knife. You can also do the same thing to the outside. And from here, I like to take the cleanup tool. You can use either end of it, the little hook end or the knife end, and I like to just take off and I bevel this slightly. I'm barely taking off any clay. And this is probably going to take you the longest part, is just to bevel this and just be really careful. So this took me several minutes. It took me probably over 20 minutes to do the whole thing here. But I'm going to use this cleanup tool and round off the edge slightly. Not a lot, just a little bit. And any little imperfections inside, I can clean up any slip with the sponge right now. And then I'm going to go over and sponge the whole thing. You put in the hard work, and now it's time to celebrate your success. Great job. And just like last time, we were going to put it on a piece of newspaper in our tub. And I'll see you next time for the decoration.